Hello, and welcome to the Cryptocurrency News Channel. Today we're going to talk about possible Ethereum breakouts going towards the end of the year. I don't think it's going to happen in the next few weeks, but there are certain resistances that if Ethereum breaks, it could lead to a rapid run-up. And Ethereum, remember, has been at 1,300 before at its high. So one of the major resistances is 360, which is where we topped out basically back in June or July at the maximum of this like mini run. Now it's nothing compared to the run that Bitcoin had and Ethereum had back in 2017. But now that we are below $200, this seems like a world away. Ethereum would have to more than double its price to get to 360. But personally, I think with some of the factors coming into play, it actually might not be that hard because you have the Bitcoin halving, which I think will actually drive Bitcoin prices up at least somewhat. If you remember the last halving, about 2 or 3 months before the last halving, Bitcoin prices actually rose by about 70%, and it could very well do that again, rise by about 70%. And Ethereum also has the 2.0 stuff coming up. Now, if that acts like the Litecoin catalyst for the Litecoin halving, I know those are two very, very different things. But Ethereum 2.0 is a very big deal because it gets proof of stake, solves the scalability problem, and basically allows more transactions to be processed on Ethereum, which would actually increase the demand for Ether. So 360 looks like a big stop, and it's going to be really hard to break because Ethereum only achieved 360 when basically Bitcoin achieved about $14,000. But if Bitcoin goes up because of the halving to around $14,000, $15,000, again, I believe we will smash that 360 resistance. And with the FOMO coming in from Ethereum 2.0, which I hope is a FOMO, we could easily break above 360. And if Bitcoin goes even higher afterwards, throughout 2020, you could easily go to maybe even $1,000 or more. I'm actually, in the next bull run, my target for Ethereum is actually above $2,000. Because it's been to 1,300 before, and in the next bull run, especially if the next bull run comes after the first few iterations of Ethereum 2.0, I think there'll be more enterprise customers on Ethereum. We know that Santander Bank is actually tokenizing their bonds on Ethereum. We know that several banks have actually do run on Ethereum platform for some of their internal processes, and we know that Ethereum runs actually a lot of enterprise grade decentralized applications. I do think the FOMO will actually be even stronger next time, especially after, some of the sharding and plasma comes in. I think the full implementation of 2.0 will take like 2 years or so, but the first few steps will probably take, hopefully, in the first half of next year. And when the Bitcoin halving comes, even after the Bitcoin halving, I think Bitcoin's going to drop, but it's not going to drop to the levels we are now. And then throughout 2020, it's going to slowly go up as we complete the cycle into 2021. Remember, the last cycle, basically, Bitcoin shot up right before its halving, dropped about 50% of the way back down. But as 2016 played out, Bitcoin slowly went up as we went up to the end of 2016, and it actually achieved its halving high by the end of 2016. And of course, 2017 was a slow way up too. So when I look at 2020, 2021, I actually kind of see the same pattern with Ethereum, but there's probably going to be an extra bump for Ethereum because of the 2.0, the 2.0 progress that's actually coming out. I believe we'll see a lot more enterprise use of Ethereum, more than there actually is right now. Even though there's quite a bit right now, I believe we'll see more tokenization of bonds, more tokenization of assets using the Ethereum blockchain, especially after Ethereum solves the sharding, solves its own scaling issues, and Vitalik can stop beating up his own coin because of the scaling issues. So I'm really looking toward that. The 360 is basically, the 360 is a high barrier, but I think as Bitcoin gets closer to the halving, either later this year or early next year, I think we can break the 360 just from the Bitcoin halving alone, pulling Ethereum up. And then after that, I think Ethereum 2.0 will do the rest of the job, and maybe soon after the Bitcoin halving, as Bitcoin goes steadily up after 2020, I believe we can possibly see, optimistically, $1,000 in 2020. So I think Ethereum is an excellent investment right now. It's an excellent investment for the future. And even if it doesn't reach $1,000 by 2020, I think in 2021, if we have another bull run, it can easily reach new heights. Now, it won't be able to sustain those new heights, is my guess. But you will have a chance to sell at the top, probably at over $2,000. And that's really my guess for Ethereum right now. So that is the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe and hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.